Hello once again. Happy Thursday to you. This is Robin Sachs and Lindsay House, two coaches on a mission. We have been popping onto your LinkedIn and YouTube actually a number of times now, and we are doing something called the ABCs of Success for 2022. We are simply walking through the alphabet letter by letter and identifying words, phrases, concepts, depending on what the letter is for that particular time, that will help you succeed and continue to succeed as you walk through your life, both personally and professionally. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Robin. So good seeing you.
As always. All right. So we are on the letter L today. We have gone A through K so far, and we've got what I think are a handful of really good words today. How about I throw the first one out and I'll throw it to your court and see what happens, where we start. First one I want to jump into is labels. Let's talk about labels for a moment.
Yes, I didn't think you were going to start there. Let's start there.
We're going to go with the heavy guns. We're just going right in. Let's hit labels. On.
Let's do this. And it was funny because Robin and I were like almost a little scary on the same page this morning. You know, I was like, that's what I have. That's what I have. So apparently our coaching all goes to the same spot with the letter L. But labels are one of those things that can feel very innocent and that we all do it. And I just want to point out a couple examples with labels and start to help you understand why this can lead down a very slow growing, but lead down a path that we can really get stuck in what we think are our labels. And so some of my examples are, this is a really innocent label, but bookworm. Another one, like how many times have we called somebody a negative Nelly? Or I was thinking, like, sometimes you hear a parent be like, yep, my youngest, just a goofball. And so I want your brains to circle around. Think of labels that you've heard people say about you or that you've been quick to throw at other people. And then really start to think about how those stick. And I'm going to let's go back to that bookworm example. But my mom, this was hers. She was always called a bookworm growing up. And she really started to associate with that, to relate to it. How she pictured herself was, snuggled up on a couch under a blanket, reading a book. She wasn't an active girl. She wasn't out sweating. No, it was all this like cozy, comfy bookworm. It wasn't until she got into her 40s, mid 40s, where she started to work out a little and was like, oh, I can be an athlete. I can work out, but no one ever called me that. No one ever labeled me that. And therefore I wasn't that. And I think about how much we do this with our own kids, and truly purely accidental. I heard this come out of my husband's mouth, negative Nelly, and he wasn't calling my daughter a negative Nelly. He was just saying you are being a negative Nelly. But I'm like, oh, we have to be so careful with that, because if that sticks too much, now that daughter, all she can picture is, I'm a negative Nelly. I just think that way. I can't get myself out of that label. And so I know we always do homework and we can pick multiple homework assignments for today, but I really want our listeners to write down a list of labels that they have either been given or that they really associate themselves with. Where does your brain go with that, Robin?
I love how you walked into this, Lindsay, because as I was listening to you, the thing that was really sticking with me is there are labels that, whether somebody says it once to us or we say it once to ourselves, or we've heard it 100 times to describe us, there are certain labels we embrace and we hold on to and we don't let go of. And that can be a positive. It can also be a challenge, to your point, as if that's how I identify, that may preclude me from identifying other ways that have nothing to do, they don't have nothing to do with one or the other. And, it's interesting because when you think about, the labels, not just as the things like the negative Nellies, bookworms, those types of things. Also, I would encourage you, write down literally every label in your life. You might be a mom or a dad. You might be a child. You might be a grandparent. You might be a coworker. You might be a boss. You might be an employee. You might be a remote worker. You might be a softball player. You might be a brother, a sister, a cousin. When you really start putting your labels down, you realize that we have hundreds potentially of labels in our lives.
So good.
And then notice which ones, again, you gravitate to. Because can you be multiple labels at one time? Absolutely. The key, I think, with labels is your label helping you or hurting you?
Mm,
Is it shifting you away from something that you'd like to accomplish or do, or maybe even be?
yeah.
And the couple that come to my mind, I one for myself and one for a friend I'll share. I was someone who I was always great with writing in English and stuff. That's my bailiwick, right? And it's why I became a writer and a speaker and a coach that helps people be better writers and speakers and those types of things. I love that stuff and I'm really good at it. I was the kid who was a straight D student in math. And so it was always in my head, oh, I'm not good at math. I don't do math. Math's not my thing. And so literally at almost 50 years old, I will still hear myself sometimes going, well, I'm not good at math, right? For things that are so simplistic and ridiculous that you don't have to have a calculus degree to do, right? Basic addition, I'll do something and I'm like, I'm not good at math. And it's almost this little insecure excuse, but really all it is words because it's untrue. Another flip of this. So be careful which labels you're using that are not true, but you're using for an excuse or for some insecurity or just to kind of play that part. Sometimes we just play the part. Stop playing the part and become who you genuinely are or are not and accept it and go, yep, that's me. That's not me for real. The other thing is I have a friend who has a lot of anxiety issues. And over the years, she was always told, you are an anxious person. You're an anxious person. And so she grew up going, I'm an anxious person. I get anxious about everything. And that came into every conversation you would have with her. And at one point, I asked her, I said, I'm just curious. You've identified being an anxious person all your life. Could you just be a person who sometimes feels anxious? And she went, wait, what? So we just stripped the label off, right? We stripped the label off and said, actually, let's look at it as a behavior, not as an identity, because you are not that thing. More often than not, you're just doing the behavior of that thing. Back to your example of the negative Nelly, right? You're not a negative Nelly, but right now in this scenario, you're being a negative Nelly. You're choosing to sound like that or behave like a negative Nelly. So with labels, identify your labels, figure out which ones are getting in your way, which ones aren't even real or true, and identify with ones that are you and just own them. Embrace your labels and own them. And the ones that don't apply, ditch them and move on.
Yeah, so good. Thank you. That was wonderful. Yes. Okay. I feel like I could keep talking about this one and I'm like trying hard not to. Or else
I know labels is a big one. Maybe we'll do a separate thing just on labels, maybe a little interactive stuff.
Yeah. Yes, I think we might need to, especially if anybody listening kind of goes, "Oh yeah, let's dive deeper into that one." But I'm going to flip one your way and maybe this kind of goes along with it to some extent, but limitations.
Ooh. So the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of limitations is we get in our own way more than anybody else will ever get in our own way ever. And so when we think about limitations, it's not what we can or can't do. I think more often than not, it's what we think we can or can't do, or what we believe we can or can't do, or what we've told ourselves we can or can't do. And there's an opportunity with limiting beliefs is to simply question them. If you have a limiting thought, a limiting belief, if you feel you're running into a limitation that doesn't allow you to move to the next step or go forward or accomplish something, I invite you and encourage you strongly to step back for a moment and actually question that. Why do I think I can't do that? What is actually getting in the way factually? Not what I feel or think or I think might be getting in the way. What is getting in the way? Because oftentimes what we find with limitations is they're not valid, but we believe them to be the be all end all. And so that's where my mind goes with limitations. And like most other things in life, when we believe the limitation and we've never questioned it to see if it's true or not, or real or not, or accurate or not, we become a participant in our own lives. Not a participant, we become a spectator in our own
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
We stop participating because the moment we go, well, I guess that's how it is, and we stop, now we just watch life happen to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we watch things and go, boy, I wish I could have done that, or that would be fun. I'd like to do that. But we don't do anything more.
Yeah.
So limitations move us to spectators in our own lives, take us completely off the bench. We can no longer participate. And they're usually wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
I
do you
actually
what do
got
you think
chills
about
as you're saying that, because it does that whole, like, the way I think of it, and maybe our listeners can relate to it, is, have you ever heard yourself saying, well, that would work for them or must be nice for them? And you were starting to go there, Robin, too. Like, but you completely don't think that that's a possibility for you. And I was going through some examples of that. Like, that person can work on their confidence. I get that it will work for them. If they like work hard enough at it, if they get coached through it, they will find a new level. I won't. Like, that to me is just, it's not going to happen. Or like, that person can shift their mindset. I've seen them really have a lot of growth. Me, I grew up in a negative household. Like, it won't happen for me. So it's like constantly going back to that. Are you thinking it will work for somebody, but it won't work for you? Because then it's like your red flag. It's your little trigger of, I have a limiting belief somewhere. And somebody, a coach, needs to help me unpack it. Because I think it's really hard to unpack our own limiting beliefs because they sneak in there. A lot of times we wouldn't even know to call it that until somebody goes, hey, it's kind of like what you did with your friend. Have you ever considered? It's just a question. And I
think
love that.
about it this way. That's all.
Yes. Yes, yes. And limiting beliefs are like that. I'm a dietitian, so I work with a lot of weight management people that losing weight will work for them, but, or that person can get in the kitchen and shift their eating habits, but not me. Not me. I'm too set in my ways. And it's like, no, 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 no. Everybody, there are no lost causes. Everyone is privy to being able to change. We just have to understand what our barriers are and how to get around them.
And,
So,
I love what you just said, Lindsay. And I think one thing to kind of add to that, if nothing more than something to think about, if you've never thought about this before, is, sometimes something was said to you one time,
mm-hmm.
and you've said that to yourself for the next 10 years.
Right.
It wasn't true then, or even if it was, is it true now?
Yeah.
It may not have been true then, but you latched onto that. And you've brought that with you. And when you mention, baggage, we all have baggage of different kinds. And how do you unpack that? It's so important. This is the power of a coach, because, a coach is 100% vested in you, right? They're not talking about themselves. How can I help you unpack this? And, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friend, whether it's a trusted advisor of some kind. And again, people close to you can often see so much in you that you don't see in yourselves. People outside of you completely can see 100 times more because they can instantly see the behaviors. And so getting a third party of some kind, preferably someone who doesn't know you terribly well, can help you identify quickly. And the idea is, you can talk about carrying your baggage through your life and having baggage. But the thing you need to know is, at any point, you can put the baggage down. That's a choice you have. But sometimes someone needs to help you go, oh, I never just thought about putting it down. Wait, that feels better already. Now open it up and just unpack it. Wow, that feels a little better already. So having somebody else working with you to see what those things are for you, because you can see them almost instantly in behavior.
Yeah.
Instantly. And so
yes.
Powerful. Get someone else to see the things you will never see for yourself, and you'll be able to learn them like that, which is amazing.
When our listeners, when you are listening to Robin and I right now, like, can you envision sitting across from one of us and having these conversations that are all about you, which is what Robin was saying. The coach is all about you. And it's questioning, it's not judging, it's not. I loved one of my podcast interviewed guests had said, I tell my clients to borrow my belief that I have in them until they can believe in themselves. And that's exactly what you were just describing, Robin. I feel like a coach does that. Like, we see it. We believe in you. Absolutely. We know you can get there. We believe it.
That's
So
literally
borrow
our
it.
job. That's
Yeah.
literally our job.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Or else we wouldn't do it, right? Like, if you and I did not think that people could change, or did not think that we could work on being our best self or thriving versus just surviving, like, why would we show up to this every day? I would have
It would be
zero motivation.
frustrating if we didn't
Yeah.
already believe. It would be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah. Right?
But
Why would we
instead,
do it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I know we're not on F or G, but we don't need to go into this. But if you'd like to learn a little bit more too, learning a little more about fixed mindset and growth mindset, introduce yourself to those concepts and go ahead, look that up. There's a ton of information. There's wonderful books, videos. Take a look at that and identify which one you are and which one you'd like to be.
Yeah.
Because again, who you are now doesn't mean that's who you have to be a year from now or 5 years from now or 2 months from now.
Right.
You are allowed to change. You are allowed to shift. The key is, are you making those shifts and changes for you or for someone else? If they're for you, which actually is going to kind of segue us, I think, into the next thing that I'm going to
Yeah.
bring up, which is like yourself. You hear oftentimes, love yourself. You've got to love yourself. And let's be honest, no judgment, just awareness. Jumping from I don't like myself to I need to love myself is
Mhm.
that's a lot of
Right.
space. That's asking a
Mhm.
lot, and that's not real doable a lot of the time. So what we're proposing is start by liking yourself. That's all you have to do. Because if we're all in a space at some point where we don't like us. We want to be different. There's something about us we can't stand. There's something about us frustrating us, bothering us, we're complaining about, or whatever it might be. And it's easy to get fixated on that thing we don't like about ourselves right now. We get hyper focused on it.
Yeah.
And right, Lindsay, I'm sure you see this with weight and health all the time, right? I see this oftentimes with things like confidence. I just got a new job role. Now I have to lead a team or get up and talk to people or talk to executives. I hate public speaking. How do I get more confident and less nervous? I don't know how to do that. And so what ends up happening is we talk about what we don't like about ourselves. Oh, I get up there and I sweat and I trip over my words and I can't do anything right. And then I look like an idiot. And then they can see I'm not confident. I'm not trustworthy. I'm not believable. I shouldn't even be in this role. And then they have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I shouldn't even be here. And it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And when you simply bring someone back and say, okay, acknowledge all that stuff. That's all real. It's true. We're not going to negate it. But now let's go to something that actually works and you can like. They just promoted you to that role because everyone above you in that company already believes in you. They already know you do a good job, or they wouldn't be paying you and putting you in that role.
Yeah.
So, how
Yeah.
about you cut yourself some slack and say, there are some things I can learn to get better and better and better. And those are just skills, those are easy, right? As a coach, I can teach you those. It's not that big a deal, it's not rocket science, right?
Yeah.
But you got to start with being okay with you. Because if you're not, no amount of anything that you will do is going to help you, because the first thing you need to do is believe in you. You've got to like something about you. And so identifying that, don't worry about loving yourself right now. Or if you already like yourself, challenge yourself to move on to loving yourself. If you're not crazy about where you are right now at this part of your life, that's okay. Let's just take a baby step. What's one thing that you do like about yourself? Let's start there. That is the springboard to you being able to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to the whole, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Because liking ourselves or loving ourselves means ultimately self-care. And if we're not pouring into our own cup because we like ourselves enough to do it, then we're always empty. We're always running on empty and always feeling drained. But okay, so that's one conversation. Self-care, I know we've kind of already covered that multiple times, but the liking and the loving, I really want to challenge everyone today. If you're picturing a spectrum, where do you fall on this spectrum? And we started to talk about this in our last section with kindness with our Ks, but having peace, body peace within ourselves, and really understanding, like, are we divorced from ourselves because we can't stand ourselves? Have we moved out of where are we next door neighbors with ourselves? So that's kind of one spectrum, all the way to the loving of self. Where do you fall on that? Do you, to Robin's point, do you like yourself? Can you like get disgusted with yourself and can barely stand yourself during the day? There's a lot of work that needs to happen in this spectrum. And some of you might be just fine. Like, and that's awesome. I'm telling you, like, that's fabulous when we just have the little tweaks. But if you are going from I can't stand myself, disgusted, to I need to like myself, therapy might need to happen within there, like therapy for ourselves. We think of it as couples therapy, but it's that back and forth with ourselves. And I think a lot of people are willing to work on even confidence, work on their weight, work on their food choices. But then when we go more the mental route, not everyone's there yet. I think society's getting better. It's less taboo to do the therapy. It's less like generational. Our younger generation's much quicker to jump into therapy. But if you're kind of still one of those people on the outer edge going, it's not for me, or, oh my gosh, what would people think if they knew I was in therapy? Robin and I challenge you to try it. Holy cow. Like, if you've never worked on the mental component of your health, it is so powerful. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what you do. What matters first is what you think. Then when that gets clear, when you get strong on that, you can go do anything. But if you do without that mental component, and I have to share this, and because I heard it the other day, and it made me chuckle because it's true. And based on what you just said, I think it's a little humorous point here. I hope it is. I don't mean to offend anyone, but it said so many people are in therapy because of people in their lives who refuse to go to therapy.
Yeah, oh, that's so good.
Isn't that the truth? I have to deal with them because they've got issues that they're pouring on everybody else because they won't deal with it.
Yeah.
Get on it. So we all have to suffer, right? So we're choosing to take care of ourselves because someone else won't. Sometimes that's the truth.
It is. Oh, that is so funny.
Can't always tell everyone get off your bus, so you got to figure it out for yourself. So
you gotta, we need like a serious support system for that.
Yeah, but everything starts up here. This 6 inches of real estate between your ears is literally everything. You work on that first, and you're off and running. There's nothing you can't do.
Yeah, and I think if somebody really needs some motivation behind it, it's your sustainability. It is the difference of once you work hard on all the physical things, if you've done the mental part, then you can sustain it. If you haven't done the mental part, it is going to be a constant yo-yo of it. I've got it. I don't have it. I got it, because you've never changed the processes. You've never changed why you're doing what you're doing. So again, another topic we could go on, yo-yos for a whole, we'll wait till why, but.
And that's the difference between thinking and doing. If I start something new, within a week, I'm going to say, see, it doesn't work. If the mental part isn't there, but I have the behavior, and I'm going to quit. If I have the mental part going, I've done it for a week and it hasn't worked, but I know I have to do it for another 3 months and it will work every single time. It's that mental piece that goes, yes, and I know I have to do this. So I don't care how I feel right now about it, whether I'm motivated or not, whether I feel like doing it or not, none of that matters. The mental part of just keep doing it, because that consistency will get it for you every single time. And you've got to know that, because you're not going to see it in front of you with your behavior right away.
I'm going to give a quick example, and then I promise everyone we're wrapping up. But if let's take somebody who is a smoker and they're trying to quit smoking, and they wrap in quitting smoking with weight loss. Like, if I do this, I'm worried about gaining or losing, or the focus why they started the wanting to quit smoking in the first place was health. Actually, it wasn't about weight. It was about, can I heal my lungs? Can I stop coughing? How I'm stopping coughing? Like, to really stay focused on and working on the mental component of why am I doing this in the first place? When the other thoughts that can creep in would be that, well, now I'm gaining a little bit of weight because I'm nibbling more. Now we've come off the like, I love what you were just saying, Robin. Like we have to focus on the action, that what we're doing, and we are promised success, maybe not instant success. Like that person quitting smoking might have to work around all these other barriers, but they know ultimately that the health component's going to come, but it might take months. And I think again, that's like the short term versus long term thinking. We've got to stay horse blinders on, so focused on what we're doing to make sure that
And you're not going to miss anything by doing that. So don't worry about missing anything. You're going to
yeah,
miss everything if you take the blinders off and get pulled in all these different directions. You're going to
yes,
miss everything. So
yeah,
counterintuitive. You're
yeah,
not missing anything if you stay focused. You're getting
that's
everything, as a matter of fact. So,
yes,
all right.
yes. Okay, as we wrap up, Robin, where are you loving for people to find you right now?
You know what? I am on LinkedIn virtually every day, so feel free connect with me. If there's something I can be of help with, feel free to connect and reach out to me. If you want to just follow me, I do share tips on confidence and stress, how to stress less and have more confidence all the time. Mindset shifts, self-talk. I share that stuff all the time. So if that's helpful to you or if that's an interest to you, feel free go there. You can always get me at my website, robinjsachs.com. And there are a bunch of free videos. There's a blog with tons of free tips, articles on it. And you can also see how to hire me as a coach or a speaker there as well. Feel free to reach out there. How about you, Lindsay?
Awesome. Yes. So my happy home is actually my podcast, Direction, Not Perfection. And wherever you listen to your podcast, you can grab that. I have free resources waiting for you on my website right now. I know that as kids are going back to school, some people are kind of remotivating, as like wanting to get back in the kitchen, grocery store. So some meal planning tips on there, some grocery lists, some habit trackers, and just blank accountability month for calendars where you can fill in your wins. We talked about kudos last week, so filling in our kudos for the week. But healthaccountabilitycoach.com, or you can just bump over to my podcast, Direction, Not Perfection.
Awesome. Yay. All right. Lindsay, always a pleasure. Always a
You too.
wonderful conversation. I always walk away learning a ton. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. And next time, I think next week, we will be back with M. We're moving along. There's our first M. Keep moving. Keep moving.
Ah, so good. Okay.
So feel free to
Have
join
a
us
wonderful week.
and have an amazing week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.